welcome to the Tap and Tap Out podcast. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome. My name is Alex. In this podcast, we tap into discussions around mental wellness, spirituality, and culture, and we tap out of the patterns that no longer serve us. Amen. I just read that. I didn't read it. I just said from memory, and I'm proud of myself. How y'all doing this week? I almost didn't record. I will be completely upfront, candid with you. I almost put this episode away because this week has not been it for me internally, and that's largely due to what's been going on in America right now with what's being brought to light in terms of Asian Americans being targeted for hate crimes for many different reasons. And I want this space to be safe and be a place to process that, but also be a little bit uplifting. So I'm not going to delve too much into it, but I was supposed to record yesterday, which was Thursday in reality, this is a Friday today, and you're getting on Tuesday, but it's Friday today. And I decided to take a break. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to maybe wait till tomorrow, see if I feel better. And I did wake up feeling a little bit better, so I'm going to do it today as I'm here. But yeah, sending lots of love and light and prayers to those being affected and, still struggling with what's going on right now. I wish I could do more, and I have some things planned in the future, hopefully, that something I can do and be a part of it. But please, if you're outside of the community, not sure what's going on, educate yourself. Be sure to look into it, figure out what you can do to help. But yeah, I won't dwell too much on it because I probably will later in a future episode. So with that, last episode we talked about people. It was called Archie Spears. I love the title, but it was a culture catch up. We talked about Wendy Williams, Britney Spears, and Meghan Markle. What's going on in the culture. We tried to glean some wisdom from their stories and their experiences. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making that episode, so I hope you guys liked it. In the inbox this week, we have a few questions. Once again, the inbox is where you can send in your questions, advice questions, comments about the show, thoughts about the world, anything you want to talk about, literally anything, no matter what episode it is. Send in your questions, comments, thoughts. You can email heartofshema@gmail.com or just DM my personal page at @justalextoday. I will respond, I promise you. Before we begin, no advice this week, but whenever there is advice sent, I am not a licensed professional, but I can tell you what I would do, so keep that in mind. First question is, what are you looking forward to after the pandemic? Lots of things. I feel like, I guess I'm gonna get here quickly, but I feel like the pandemic on a figurative level has shown us a lot of the underlying prejudices and just hatred people have for other groups, and it's something that I wasn't necessarily surprised to see, but I'm looking forward to society having to deal with what's been unearthed because of the pandemic and because of the hate that has been brought out of people, honestly. I'm excited to have conversations that will be hopefully progressive, and now that it's out of the open, people have shown their true colors more ways than one, and so I'm looking forward to just more toothy, meaty conversations about things we need to work on as a people. But personally, I'm looking forward to going to brunch. I'm not a picky person. I'm not asking for much. I just want to go to brunch peacefully. I want to go to brunch peacefully. That's really what my answer is, going to brunch. The next question is, how would you describe your relationship with your friends? It's a very broad question. I don't really know how to answer it, but if you know me, you know that I am constantly reevaluating my relationship with the world and my people around me. Literally every 2 weeks, I'm having like a new crisis or a new situation or a new way to process my friendships. Um, I guess something right now that I've been working on is reevaluating not like what function my friends play in my life, but accepting that friends that you have only need to fill certain roles. Like, I don't need every quote unquote friend in my life to fulfill all my needs, you know? I might have one friend for one thing and another friend for another thing, and that's fine. And I've been trying to like grow an understanding of that. And I'm learning now that those things can also change, you know, and those things are meant to grow and adapt. And so, yeah, that really answer your question, but that's just my musings right now on friendship. Um, that is all I have for the top. I have an episode planned where we talk about meditation. The title of this episode is Meditation for Dummies. You're not a dummy if you've never meditated, but in case for the dummies out there who are listening, if you consider yourself a dummy, this is for you. I'm gonna break down in the most basic way possible meditation, what it is, how to start, just the basics. If you're someone that has been worried about what it is, or if it's safe, or like what does it do for you, or if you're a novice, or you're into it and you need a refresher, or you want to just re-enter in this new way, this is for you. So we'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we will jump into the tap in for the week. It is time for the tap in this week. Like I said, we're talking about meditation for dummies. This is a crash course 101 level introduction to meditation. So to understand meditation, you have to understand what mindfulness is, right? So starting off, mindfulness is simply being in the present moment. So right now you are sitting down or standing up or in the car and you're hearing my voice. This is the present moment, right? Now, if you were listening to my voice, listening to Tap In, Tap Out, and you were thinking about, I don't know, what's for dinner tonight, or you're listening to the podcast and you're writing down your plans for next week, your meal plans, that is not being in the present moment. Yes, you're using your body and you're listening to my voice, but your mind's also in the future. So mindfulness is all about putting yourself in the present moment and being there. So meditation is a practice or a way or a strategy to tap into mindfulness and tap into being in the present moment, right? That's all it is. I think people get scared because I think meditation is used a lot in certain spiritual practices, and it definitely has a spiritual component to it if you would like that. And I think obviously something like prayer can be meditative, you know, but the act of meditation itself, on its own, doesn't have to be a spiritual thing. It can just be literally like what you do, you know, because you do it. So just for reference, I took a class on mindfulness. I mentioned this in episode 4 with Van, but I took a course on mindfulness last year. And before that, I was also practicing on and off, just like meditating to myself and listening to certain guided tracks. But the book that I'm referencing that I currently use to learn about it more is called A Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Workbook by Bob Stahl and Elisha Goldstein. That'll be in the description. It's a very not cut and dry, but it's nothing outstanding about it. It just gives you kind of the breakdown of different forms of mindfulness and how they can work in your day-to-day. And it has a lot of like journaling prompts you can do to it and stuff. That's what I'm using, or what I'm basing this discussion off of, in case you're wondering. So in the book, actually, they talk about these attitudes or principles of mindfulness. And so I think they list maybe 10, and they're all pretty important to look into, but I just pulled 3 that I think are the most important to remember when trying to get into meditation or mindfulness and what that looks like. The first one is non-judgment. So this is basically not labeling thoughts, feelings, or sensations as good or bad, right or wrong, fair or unfair, but simply taking note of them in each moment. So a common thing that can come up when you try to meditate or sit down and just close your eyes and breathe is you will start to get thoughts that come in about your day and about the future and about what you're eating tonight and what someone said to you yesterday, and we live in such a busy, noisy world that it's just bound to happen. And so it's important not to judge yourself for it. And no, it's a natural part of meditating. It's a natural part of making space for your head to just be. The thoughts will come. That's supposed to happen. But it's important not to label them. There's a nice poem out there somewhere. I should probably know this, but it's about this thing called monkey mind. And essentially, the thoughts in our head, we can call them monkeys, and they're like causing ruckus in our head and they're jumping around and stuff. But we have to learn how to let our monkeys just dance around and just be who they are, And you'll find that after a while, the monkeys will calm down and the monkeys will want to meditate with you, And the poem does it much more eloquently, but it's important that thoughts will come and go by, but you shouldn't put a label to them. It should just pass through, What I've also learned is that if I'm meditating or if I'm making that space to sit with myself and there is a constant thing that comes up, it's also a way for me to know that's something to look into or journal about or talk about with my therapist, because it's obviously not necessarily hindering me, but it keeps coming up, And so either way, mindfulness is really all about being self-aware. And I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but with mindfulness, you're checking in with yourself. And so by checking in physically, so by sitting down, breathing, taking that time to see your environment and see yourself in your environment, you're almost at stage 1 of being self-aware, because hopefully by the time you get used to knowing how to be self-aware with your body, then you can tap into being self-aware with your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, right? So it's important to understand, we talk about posture and breathing and being in a quiet area, because you're training yourself to tap into self-awareness, which is super important and plays an important part, obviously, in your own relationship with yourself and with other people. So anyway, another attitude of mindfulness that is important to have is called non-striving. So this is not trying to get anywhere other than where you are. Literally, that's what it is. So I think sometimes with meditation, we can think we're trying to achieve some enlightenment or some kind of higher vibration, and that could be a part of it, but that's not the goal. The goal of mindfulness is not to be anywhere other than where you are. So if you feel sucky, you're not really using meditation to feel better. If you're feeling anxious, meditation can be helpful in relaxation and be helpful in reducing stress, but you shouldn't go into it with the intention of reducing stress, because you're kind of giving it a job that it isn't necessarily meant to be. So with non-striving, just remember that you aren't trying to get anywhere. You're just trying to check in with where you're at, So sometimes for me, I like to check in when I'm feeling muddled emotionally. I call myself an empath, which there's going to be an episode about empathy very soon, but I do call myself an empath. And for me, I get pretty muddy with my emotions and people's emotions and all that stuff. But when I check in with myself and I'm mindful or meditate on how I'm feeling, instead of trying to feel better or escape that, what I'm actually trying to do is describe what's going on inside of me and figure out, okay, I'm feeling this mud of emotions. What part of this is what I'm feeling? What part of this is what someone else is feeling? And just try to figure it out. And just by focusing on it, And the last attitude I want to touch on is self-compassion. This is so important to any kind of mindfulness meditation practice you do. So very much linked to non-judgment, but adds a new layer to it. So self-compassion is cultivating love for yourself as you are without self-blame or criticism. This actually ties into non-striving too, because I think sometimes we pursue a journey of mindfulness or even spirituality with the intention of, being better people. And that's not a crime. I think it's important to have motivations, have intentions, but it's hard to start when you have a negativity to who you are in this moment. Like, you kind of have to start in a place of acceptance of, like, this is who I am, and it's not perfect, but it's workable. And having self-compassion is having a love for yourself in this moment. It's not going to be the love you have for yourself when you get it or when it's easy for you, but it's about having compassion for yourself today, not about who you're going to be or or who you've been, but just who you are today and loving that version of you. And it's really important because when you first start, at least it's hard to focus, and it's hard to, like, quote unquote not focus on anything, or don't think about anything. Like, people tell you that, and it's like, okay, you set me up. But when you practice self-compassion, like, you'll notice that it plays into other parts of your life. So the book that I referenced earlier, something that they have you do is write about how you talk to yourself, and you don't realize, like, how much negative self-talk we give ourselves. And so, like I said earlier, mindfulness meditation is helpful to understand just where you're at, and then you'll be able to reach out and find resources to improve that version of you. But the mindfulness component is simply taking an assessment of where you're at. So with that, I mentioned that mindfulness is the base for meditation. I mentioned that it involves checking in with the body. An easy thing to start with, I think it's like a core practice of meditation, is just a breathing exercise. Most things you do in meditation, whether that's you going on to, like, doing yoga meditation or doing a body scan, we'll get to that. But if you're doing any kind of mindfulness practice, you will probably have to breathe. and why it's important is breathing is just an easy way to check in with the body, and we all do it. We all forget it, so practicing to breathe is kind of symbolic too of, like, how much your body is doing all the time that you ignore, because you don't have to think about it, and that's a blessing for a lot of us. And so if you're someone that is, able to breathe and able to breathe on your own, it kind of reminds you that there are things going around in you and outside of you that are happening with or without your awareness, And so for me, I love breathing exercises. You can do, like, the advanced level types of strategies, and, people be, I don't know, walking on nails and stuff. But breathing is just so important. The breathing exercises, I think, are my favorite because it's so easy to do. It's free. You get more oxygen in, so, like, it helps your brain get more oxygen. I just love breathing now. I do. I mentioned the wandering mind, monkey mind thing. With posture, I just say make sure you're in a comfortable position. So sitting down, I like laying down personally. So I would go on my carpet and lay on my back and just sprawl out and and breathe. Like, that is what I do. Helpful things that I've heard. That's why I do that, is because I was listening to a guided meditation one time, and this person said to let the ground hold you. And I found that when I'm sitting up, I am trying to hold up my body, but if I'm laying down, I can literally let my feet and my legs and my body just kind of die and just be so still and just not control my body and just focus on my breath. And I find that I get a lot more out of it a lot quicker because I don't use my body while I'm meditating. But if you're someone that has to sit up and do it, it's obviously still normal and still fine. It's whatever is best for you, which is the best part about this. It's so customizable. We'll get there. But some variations of the breathing core practice is a body scan. A body scan is basically, if you look up body scan on YouTube, It'll probably be like maybe 15, 20 minutes. And what the person will have you do is do your breathing, sitting up or lying down, but they will verbally take you through all the parts of your body from like your toes to your head. So it'll just, and you can time it. So they'll have ones that are 10 minutes or like an hour. It's up to you how detailed you want to go with your body scan. But if you're someone that has a hard time just sitting and doing nothing, I found that the body scan is helpful because it gives you something to do. So it'll tell you to focus on your ankle, move up to your knee, move up to your thigh. And it just feels like you're doing something a little more productive. And you don't realize that because you're focusing on how those parts of your body feels, you're kind of forgetting what else you were doing that day. You're kind of forgetting what you were doing before, what you're going to do later. And at the end, usually they have you take an assessment of the whole thing. I feel really cool when I finish it. I don't know. I'm just kind of a nerd, but I feel really cool when I finish it. And then also there's yoga. If you guys, don't know about yoga, check out the episode I did with a yoga instructor, episode 4 with Vantana. But yoga's awesome. If you, again, have a hard time just sitting down, there are ways you can incorporate movement and thought and awareness into it that don't just require you to sit down and do nothing, So I highly encourage you to look up on YouTube just yoga instructor, or I type in like 30-minute yoga beginner, and I just pick one every few days and do it. Right now I'm doing, not relevant right now, but right now I'm doing 3 a week I want to do. So I'm doing it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Sometimes I skip, but it's none of your business. Almost lastly, it is important to understand that you can customize this however you want to. Personally, for me, I love Jhené Aiko to meditate to. I feel like I talked about her last week. I definitely did. It's not hard to not talk about her. But I definitely listen to her music. She has a Tiny Desk performance on NPR that I meditate to at least once a week. It's like 18 minutes long, and then she has a medley of her Chilombo album on her own channel, and that's like 14 minutes. But why I love her is that she incorporates some like sound bath stuff. It's like a little glass jar, and she has like a rod that she can kind of move around and stuff, and she's just really tapped into that kind of world, and so it just makes sense, and her music is very calming to me. So if you want, you can try to practice with music. So finding a song that you love that's mellow or maybe a little bit slower, and see if you can hear or be in that song more than you would like walking to work with it, or being in the car with the song. See if you can listen to like really the details of the production. And that's a really good practice to learn for mindfulness. If you have a hard time being in silence, try to be present as much as possible with your favorite song. There are 1,000 and thousands of apps out there for meditation, honestly. You can go on YouTube and look up meditations. I use an app called Insight Timer. It's free. There's like thousands of guided meditations. You can search it by length, topic, time of day. Like you can do it all. If you want to practice without a voice, you can put on lo-fi music. You can put on sound baths. You can put on binaural beats. They're just like meditation sounds. Like you'll know it when you hear. You're like, oh, there's like people meditate to this. Yeah, just kind of like ambient music you can play. You feel like rain. If you like thunderstorms, I don't know, like whatever you like to do, whatever's your vibe, go for it. Lastly, I want to give a bonus exercise for you guys. This is one that I don't use as much lately, but when I first read about it, I used it a lot. It's called color breathing. I made a post about this on my blog that's kind of inactive right now, heartofshema on Instagram, but it's a color breathing technique. So basically, think of a color that brings you a lot of peace. When you think of this color is like calm, peace, just stillness. For me, that's sky blue. So like a little bit louder than sky blue, like a pastel sky blue. That's my color, right? So that's your color for peace, and your color for calm, and your color for stillness, right? Now, what's your color for anxiety? What is your color for anger? What is your color for chaos? For me, it's a primary red color, right? Usually it'll be blue and red for people, but yours could be different. Um, so the idea is to imagine your body being filled with that red color. For me, it's red. So that red color is what's in your body, and you want to get it out. So when you breathe or you're exhaling, again, to speak to music or to just in silence, but you're trying to exhale that red color outside of your body. And when you inhale, you guessed it, you can inhale the color that you think brings you peace. And you can kind of visualize in your head that bad negative color leaving and the good calm color coming in. And so what you'll notice, what you should be trying to do mentally if you can, is imagine the red leaving your body and the blue entering your body. And at some point you should start to see, like your body become blue. And if you're a visual thinker, this would be really good for you. If you're not, I'm sorry, but you can try it if you want to. But for me, I'm a very visual thinker, so I can envision like the blue entering and the red leaving, and it's just a way for you to materialize mentally what's going on in your body. I use it mostly when I'm having a bit of anxiety with something, or I'm about to do an interview or something that's like really hard. I'll try to do this because it helps me be a little bit more. It's a little more meaningful than just breathing in and out, So it kind of feels like I'm doing something. But yeah, I hope that crash course was helpful. If you have questions, feel free to DM me. Honestly, my DMs are open. I'm not gonna dwell on that, but yes, thank you for listening. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we get back, we will do the small business shout out and then the tap out for the week. This is our small business shout out. This week we are talking about the Take Care Project. You can find them on letstakecare.net. This is a small business, Asian American owned, and essentially right now they are selling sweatshirts, and they're really cute. There are 2 color variations that say take care on them, and their mission is for everyone to have access to the tools they need to set meaningful intentions for themselves, which is super important in this time, obviously. And something cool about what they're doing is that every purchase, they're providing a complimentary life coaching check-in with a certified life coach. Isn't that so dope? And if that wasn't enough for you, 10% of all sales go towards Mental Health America, which is a nonprofit organization to help fight mental illness. And so I was sold from the second I saw the sweatshirt, but also just hearing what they do, what their movement is. If you're looking for small businesses support in this time, please check them out. You can check them out on letstakecare.net/shop, or their Instagram is lets and then 2 underscores take care. I will put that in the description, but please check them out. Yeah, that's our shout out for the week. It is time for the tap out. Thank you guys for listening this week. All right. So this week I have 2 tap outs. I know, mind blowing. Also, I mentioned this episode 1, I'm pretty sure, but the tap out does not always have to include me. I can also talk about what other people should be tapping out of. And so this week I have 3 tap outs, actually. But the first tap out is for 2 people specifically, and I'm not trying to single them out, but I do think that their experiences are representative of something bigger. So first, this is gonna be really messy really quickly. Okay. So if you guys watch Drag Race, welcome. If you don't watch Drag Race, please start doing that. I just started last year and I'm sold anyway. So I'm watching Drag Race this last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. And spoiler alert, we're talking about the Snatch Game episode. And so season 13, they had a Snatch Game episode. The Snatch Game is basically where each contestant has to dress up as a character, real or imagined, but someone that's like known, like a celebrity or a cartoon or someone that's significantly known. And the goal is to be funny. It's like an improv challenge. So you on this like panel and you get asked questions and you have to be your character and answer the questions, right? Now, I was going to talk about this because I had no idea I was going to bring Drag Race into this podcast, but here we are. But I saw something else that we're going to get to that brought me back to this moment. It'll make sense. So, Miss Utica. She's a contestant on Drag Race, and they decided to be Bob Ross for the challenge. And she had when I say she, that I'm talking about in drag, and so out of drag it's he, just for preference. I'm gonna switch between he and she probably this whole time. So anyway, Utica is concerned because he knows that Bob Ross has an afro, right? And so he doesn't want to be offensive. And I guess he was like, it's a really sensitive time right now. Don't be offensive. So instead of having an afro, like Bob Ross has an afro, he decides to create this head of squirrels. You can Google it. Just type Utica squirrel head. It'll be there. Utica decides to create a head of squirrels to replace, I guess, what she thought would be offensive. And she's with RuPaul for like a consultation thing before they go on the challenge. And RuPaul is like, oh, so they have some people do have afros who are white. Utica's like, yeah, I know, but I want to be safe. And he's like, but Bob Ross has an afro. The goal is to be the person. So why would you change something about the person? You're trying to be the person. Utica does not take the advice. I'm sure they had a little shake and go something she could have put on, but she didn't. She still came up with her little squirrel head. And she didn't do good. This is a spoiler. She did not do good either way. So had Utica actually done a good job, maybe it was redeemable. But the fact that you went out of your way to worry so much about this wig, this piece of afro, that performance still sucked, like maybe should have cared more about the performance, And so this week, I'm starting off the tap out by saying this week we need to tap out of being more concerned with looking racist or looking problematic than actually being problematic, right? And before I finish off Utica, I have to get to Miss Sharon Osbourne. She is what brought me into having this tap out this week. And then I was reminded about Utica's mess earlier, and I said, you know what? Let me bring these both together for our first culture tap out, okay? Now, if you don't know, Sharon Osbourne, in recent news, has stood up for Piers Morgan with the whole Meghan Markle situation and Prince Harry stuff. Didn't know what she was doing. She just said one tweet, I stand with you. And this week, I was avoiding watching the talk interview about it because I love Elaine Welteroth and I don't like seeing her sweat. And so she's my friend on my head. So I didn't want to see her struggle, but I had heard she actually was talking and stuff. So I was like, let me go watch this. I literally went on CBS.com and watched the thing it play out, with Sharon Osbourne. Understandably, I think the producers wanted her to talk about why she stood up for her. And so her co-host Cheryl Underwood decided to be the one to ask her the questions of like, okay, why did you say you stood up for him? And how does that differ from you supporting what he said about Meghan Markle? And so I highly encourage you to find the interview, or it's not interview, but just like the panel discussion, because it wasn't surprising to me watching how whiteness works in the workplace, but it was really hard to watch these two Black women try to dance around Sharon Osbourne's feelings. And then at one point, I think maybe Cheryl looked like she was going to cry. And Sharon said, anyone's gonna be crying, it should be me. And I'm like, girl, you just cancel yourself. Like, why would you say that to a Black woman? Like, it just really blew me away. And it brought this thing back up for me that was just, again, like being more concerned with looking problematic than being problematic. And as hard as it is, like, I wanted to see the good in Sharon Osbourne's motives for how she was tackling this issue, but it just felt like she was more concerned with looking racist than being racist. And I think it's a fear of, like, cancel culture, you know? And she does talk about it. She says she's in the electric chair now for nothing, you know? And, like, she's like 68 and all this stuff. And yeah, like, I respect that. However, I guess it's hard when your career falls in the hands of an audience, you know, and a support that you need from your audience. But at the same time, like, if you're tuned into what is appropriate culturally and what is anti-racist and what is right, like, that in itself should clear you from being afraid of being canceled if you're acting right, you know? And so I think instead of being concerned about how things look and how things will appear, like, doing that inner work, having those conversations so that when you come correct, like, you know? And so for Utica, again, the next week, so last week, Utica, there was a challenge, a makeover challenge. And of course, they pair Utica with the other Black queen on the show, Simone. And so they have to switch each other's outfits, basically. And so obviously Simone is, like, parry as hell because she's like, oh my gosh, is it appropriate that I put on your clothes and I blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Utica, like, once again, I gave her a break after the whole Afro stuff because I don't know, it was a one-time thing. But now you're coming up on here afraid, and, like, you have this Black person telling you it's okay to wear this garment. It was from Babs. To wear this garment, and once you're confident, once you're appreciative, RuPaul gave the green flag, Simone gave the green flag, and Utica is still concerned. And I'm like, Utica, had you had the time or had the space to listen to these Black people and understand that it's okay, you wouldn't be so caught up in what you think isn't okay. And it just, I don't know. So this week we're tapping out of that. And there is something to say about this that does hit back to me and maybe other people who are Black or of color and don't necessarily deal with this situation all the time. But there are times relationally where I'm more concerned with looking like I did the right thing than doing the right thing. You know, I can confess to that. And so it does in a way make it tap out for us to tap out of just getting out of the cosmetics of it and going back to our morals and going back to it is at its core, am I doing the right thing? You know? That's my first tap out, technically. My second tap out, a little more funny. I have a problem with people calling 4 p.m. the nighttime. I have an issue with it. I just need y'all to know it's not okay for me. I've had situations where I'm from experience. I'll be talking to somebody, like a partner for a group project, and they'll be like, all right, let's say we have our meeting at 4:30 on Zoom. They'd be like, all right, I'll see you I'll see you tonight. And I'm like, night? Like, why are you calling my day early on me? 4 p.m. is prime time afternoon. I will say even 5:30, that's the evening. That's late afternoon, evening, but it's not the nighttime. The nighttime for me is 7:30, 8 o'clock, 11:30, you know, 3 a.m. That's the nighttime. 4 p.m. is my afternoon, especially for someone that's waking up at 10 to start my day and then actually start my day at noon sometimes. 4 p.m. cannot be the nighttime. And so we need to tap out of calling 4 p.m. the nighttime because it gives me anxiety. I'm not getting much out of my day. Those are my tap outs for the week. Thank you guys for listening. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JustAlexToday. If you want to submit a question to the inbox, questions, concerns, comments, thoughts, any resources you have on meditation, honestly, any small businesses you want to promote for free, hello, please email heartofshema@gmail.com or DM me. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all the podcast places. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review 5 stars. It will help me a lot to get this podcast on the charts. and get more people to listen to it. So please, 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 thank you. With that, I'm done. So have a great week. Bye.